You dismiss the shadows, but that's where everything is seen.
If my wife Susan were any more organized, she'd schedule our arguments for maximum emotional impact. Tuesday at 7:15, right after dinner, but before her yoga class. Alex, we need to discuss your inadequacies. I have 12 minutes. My name is Alex Garrison, and for the past 8 years, I've been married to a woman who treats marriage like a hostile corporate takeover. I'm 39, work as an IT consultant, and according to my wife's friends, I'm perfectly adequate, which in Susan's speak translates to disappointingly mediocre. Our downtown apartment screams success. Marble countertops, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that costs more than most people's cars. Susan picked everything. I just signed the checks. Alex, are you listening? Susan's voice cuts through my thoughts like a legal brief through common sense. She's standing in our kitchen, perfectly dressed, even at 7 in the morning, holding her phone like a tool. Always, honey. What earth-shattering crisis requires my immediate attention? She rolls her eyes. Don't be sarcastic. I'm working late again tonight. The Henderson property deal is getting complicated. The Henderson deal. For 3 weeks, every conversation has circled back to this mysterious real estate transaction. Susan works at Morrison, Lane & Associates, one of the city's most prestigious law firms. She handles commercial real estate, which apparently requires her to work until midnight most nights. Let me guess, I say, pouring coffee into my favorite mug, the only thing in this apartment I actually chose. Victor needs your expertise again. Victor Lane, Susan's law partner, 42 years old, drives a BMW, wears suits that cost more than my monthly income, and has the kind of smile that makes you check your wallet after shaking hands. Victor appreciates my work ethic, Susan says, not looking up from her phone. Maybe you should try developing one. There it is. The daily reminder that I'm not living up to the Garrison family standards. Susan comes from money, old money, the kind that comes with trust funds and country club memberships. Her parents still can't understand what she sees in me. Neither can I, honestly. I'll try to contain my inadequacy while you're gone, I tell her. She's already heading for the door, heels clicking against the hardwood like a countdown timer. Paula and Miranda are coming over for wine tonight. Try not to embarrass me. The door slams. I'm alone with my coffee and the growing suspicion that my marriage is becoming a very expensive roommate situation. My phone buzzes. A text from my neighbor, Jenkins. Coffee on the balcony? Got gossip. Jenkins is 73, retired, and has the social awareness of a trained detective. He also makes the best coffee in the building and has no filter when it comes to sharing information. I grab my jacket and head next door. Morning, Alex. Jenkins hands me a steaming mug. How's married life treating you? Like a hostile witness, I say, settling into one of his patio chairs. The view from his balcony is identical to mine, but somehow feels more honest. Interesting choice of words. Jenkins leans back, studying me. Speaking of witnesses, you know I can see the parking garage from here, right? My stomach drops. Yeah. Victor Lane's BMW has been parked in your wife's spot an awful lot lately. Usually leaves around midnight. The coffee suddenly tastes bitter. Maybe they're working late. Maybe. Jenkins shrugs. Of course, last night I saw them working real close together, right there in the front seat. Very collaborative. I set down my mug. The city spreads out below us, thousands of people starting their day, going about their normal lives. Meanwhile, my world is quietly imploding. How long, I ask? Couple months, maybe more. Alex, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if I should. No, I'm glad you told me. I stand up. I need to go. Back in my apartment, I sit in my home office and stare at my computer screen. 8 years of marriage. 8 years of being told I'm not good enough, not ambitious enough, not enough, period. And all this time, Susan's been getting her needs met elsewhere. My phone rings. Susan. Alex, I forgot to mention. I need you to sign some papers tonight. Nothing important, just some insurance updates. Sure thing, honey, whatever you need. I hang up and lean back in my chair. For 8 years, I've been the invisible husband. The guy who pays the bills and stays out of the way. The guy everyone underestimates. What Susan doesn't know, what nobody knows, is that my little IT consulting business is actually a front for something much bigger. Those boring tax returns Jenkins mentioned, They hide a tech company worth more than Susan's entire law firm. I've been invisible by choice, but maybe it's time to step into the light. That evening, Susan arrives home with Paula and Miranda in tow. Paula is Susan's college roommate, a real estate agent with a voice like a foghorn and the discretion of a gossip columnist. Miranda works in marketing, treats every conversation like a focus group, and has the annoying habit of finishing other people's sentences. Alex, Paula practically shouts. How are you, sweetie? Living the dream, Paula. Can I get you ladies some wine? That would be wonderful, Miranda says. Susan's been telling us about her big case. So exciting. I head to the kitchen, but I can hear every word from the living room. Susan has strategically positioned them, so I'm excluded, but not quite out of earshot. Victor is just amazing to work with, Susan is saying. So much more dynamic than what I'm used to. Paula laughs. I bet he is. That man is fine. If I weren't married, Paula. Miranda giggles. Though honestly, Susan, you do seem happier lately, more satisfied. My hand tightens on the wine bottle. They're not even trying to be subtle. Well, Susan lowers her voice, but not enough. Let's just say I'm finally getting what I need in all areas of my life. Good for you, Paula says. Life's too short to settle for adequate. Adequate. There's that word again. I return with their wine, playing the perfect host. Here we go, ladies. Enjoy your evening. Actually, Alex, Susan stands up. I have those papers I mentioned. They're in my briefcase. She retrieves a thick manila folder and sets it on the coffee table. Just need your signature in a few places. I flip through the documents. Insurance forms, she said. But these look more like legal documents, complex ones. What exactly am I signing? Just some updates to our policies, nothing major. Paula and Miranda exchange glances. They know something I don't. Mind if I read through these first? And Susan's smile tightens. Alex, don't be difficult. It's just paperwork. I'm about to respond when the doorbell rings. Susan jumps up. That must be Victor. I asked him to drop off some files. Victor Lane walks into my apartment like he owns it, which, given what I'm starting to suspect, he might think he does. Evening, Alex. His handshake is firm, confident. Ladies. He nods to Paula and Miranda, who practically swoon. Victor brought the Henderson contracts, Susan says. We might need to do some work tonight. Work, right. Victor glances at the papers on the coffee table. Still need that signature, Susan? Working on it. Susan turns to me. Alex, please, just sign them. I look around the room, my wife, her lover, and her friends all waiting for me to sign documents I haven't read. All of them looking at me like I'm some kind of obstacle to be managed. You know what? I pick up a pen. You're right. Life's too short. I sign my name with a flourish. Susan visibly relaxes. Wonderful, Victor says. That should take care of everything. I hand the papers back to Susan. Anything else you need from me? No, that's perfect. Susan's already moving toward Victor. Why don't you go relax? We'll be working in the study. I head to my bedroom and close the door. Through the thin walls, I can hear Paula and Miranda whispering excitedly, then the sound of the study door closing. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. You might want to run a background check on your husband before this goes any further. A friend, I stare at the message, then delete it. Too late for warnings now. I've just signed my name to something that's going to change everything. The question is, who's going to be more surprised by what comes next? The next morning starts like any other, except Susan's gone before I wake up. No note, no goodbye, just the lingering scent of her expensive perfume in an empty coffee pot. I'm scrambling eggs when my phone rings. Unknown number. Hello? Alex Garrison? The voice is tense, worried, speaking. This is Victor Lane. We need to talk. I almost laugh. Good morning to you too, Victor. What can I do for you? Not over the phone. Can you meet me at Morrison's office in an hour? Is Susan going to be there? A pause. No, this is just between us. Interesting. Sure, I'll be there. Morrison Lane and Associates occupies 3 floors of a glass tower downtown. I've been here exactly twice in 8 years. Once for a Christmas party, once for a partner's dinner. Both times, Susan introduced me as my husband, Alex, with the same enthusiasm she'd use to introduce a piece of furniture. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect teeth and a practiced smile, directs me to Victor's office. It's everything you'd expect from a successful lawyer. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, diplomas, and awards covering the walls. Victor sits behind his desk like a king holding court. Alex, thanks for coming. He doesn't stand, doesn't offer to shake hands. Please, sit. I settle into one of the leather chairs. So what's this about, Victor? He opens a file folder on his desk. I ran a background check on you. Okay, I keep my voice neutral. Find anything interesting? That's the problem, I found too much. Victor's confident demeanor is cracking. Alex, who the heck are you? I lean back in my chair. I'm Susan's husband, IT consultant. Pretty boring guy, actually. Bees. Victor slides a paper across the desk. Garrison Tech Solutions. Incorporated in Delaware, 2018. Primary business. Cybersecurity consulting for Fortune 500 companies. Annual revenue, $47 million. I glance at the paper without picking it up. Impressive research. That's not all. Another paper. Garrison Holdings, real estate investment company. Portfolio value, $83 million. You've been busy. Victor's face is red now. There are 6 more companies, Alex, all registered to shell corporations, all tracing back to you. We're talking about a combined net worth of over $200 million. I smile. Is there a question in there somewhere? The question is why a man worth $200 million has been living like a middle-class nobody for 8 years. Maybe I like being underestimated. Victor stands up, starts pacing. Do you have any idea what you signed last night? Insurance papers, according to my wife. Those weren't insurance papers. Victor stops pacing, stares at me. That was a revised prenuptial agreement and divorce papers, Alex. Susan is divorcing you. And according to those documents, she gets half of everything. I nod slowly. Interesting. Interesting. Victor's voice cracks. Alex, she's about to take you for $100 million. Is she now? You don't understand. Susan thinks you're worth maybe $2 million tops. She has no idea what she's actually getting. When she finds out, she'll be very happy, I finish. And so will you, I imagine. Victor sits back down hard. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. How is it supposed to happen, Victor? He runs his hands through his hair. Look, Susan and I, we got involved. It wasn't planned. It just happened. She was unhappy. You were never around. I was around. I was just invisible. She wanted out of the marriage. The plan was simple. Claim irreconcilable differences, split the assets 50-50, everyone moves on, a clean break. Except now you realize the assets are a little bigger than you thought. A little bigger. Victor laughs, but there's no humor in it. Alex, this changes everything. Susan's going to own half of a business empire. She'll be one of the wealthiest women in the state. I stand up. Well, that's wonderful for her. She always said she wanted to be successful. You're not listening. When Susan finds out what she's getting, she's going to want to know why you hid it. She's going to dig deeper. And when she does, what? Victor opens another folder. Your companies have contracts with some very interesting clients. Government agencies, military contractors, the kind of people who don't like their business partners being in messy public divorces. Now I'm paying attention. What are you saying, Victor? I'm saying that when this divorce becomes public, and when your business connections come to light, you're going to have bigger problems than losing half your money. I lean forward. Are you threatening me? I'm trying to help you. Victor slams his hand on the desk. Look, there's still time. We can claim you signed under duress. Contest the divorce, drag it out in court for years. And in the meantime? In the meantime, Susan and I disappear, maybe somewhere without extradition treaties. I stare at him for a long moment. You want me to help you and my wife steal my money and flee the country? I want us all to survive this. I stand up, smooth down my jacket. Victor, I appreciate the warning, really. But I think you are overestimating the problem. Alex, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I head for the door. Give Susan my best. I'm almost out when Victor calls after me. Alex, wait, there's one more thing. I turn back. Susan's planning to claim you were emotionally harmful, controlling behavior, manipulation. She's been documenting incidents for months. My stomach twists. What kind of incidents? Arguments, times you raised your voice. She's got it all written down, dated, witnessed by her friends. That's a lie. Doesn't matter, it's her word against yours. And with her connections in the legal community, I walk back to his desk. What exactly is she claiming? Victor slides another folder across. See for yourself. I flip through page after page of handwritten notes, dates, times, detailed descriptions of arguments that never happened, misuse that never occurred. It's thorough, creative, and completely fabricated. She's been planning this for a long time, Victor says quietly. How long have you known? About the misuse claims? A few weeks. About the divorce? Couple months? About my business? Since this morning. Alex, I swear, if I'd known... I close the folder. What would you have done differently? Victor doesn't answer. That's what I thought. I head for the door again. Thanks for the heads up, Victor. This has been very educational. Alex, what are you going to do? I pause at the door. I'm going to go home and make some phone calls. Maybe update my will. Your will? Well, if I'm about to lose everything, I should probably make sure it goes to the right people, don't you think? I leave Victor sitting in his office, staring at the files spread across his desk. The elevator ride down gives me time to think. Susan's not just cheating on me. She's not just divorcing me. She's trying to destroy me. The thing is, I've been in worse situations. I've dealt with hostile takeovers, corporate espionage, competitors who'd end to get their hands on my client list. Susan and Victor think they're playing chess. They have no idea I've been playing a completely different game. My phone buzzes as I reach the parking garage. A text from Susan. Working late again tonight? Don't wait up. I text back, no problem. I'll be working late too. Time to make some calls. My home office looks like a typical IT consultant's workspace. 3 monitors, cables everywhere, empty coffee cups, and a whiteboard covered in technical diagrams. What it doesn't look like is the command center for a multi-million-dollar intelligence operation. I pull up my contact list and dial a number I haven't used in 6 months. Apex Investigations, this is Rachel. Rachel, it's Alex Garrison. I need a favor. Alex, long time no here. What's going on? Rachel Martinez runs the most discreet investigation firm in the city. We've worked together on several corporate security cases. She's thorough, professional, and has no moral qualm about digging up dirt on cheating spouses. I need surveillance on my wife, full package. Ouch, I'm sorry, Alex. How long has this been going on? Couple months, maybe longer. I need everything, where she goes, who she sees, what she does, and I need it fast. How fast? 48 hours. Rachel whistles. That's going to be expensive. Money's not an issue. Okay, I'll put my best people on it. What's her schedule like? I give Rachel all the details. Susan's work schedule, her usual haunts, her friends' information. By the time I hang up, Rachel's team is already mobilizing. Next call, my lawyer. Hoffman and Associates, this is Janet. Janet, it's Alex Garrison. I need to speak with David immediately. He's in a meeting, Mr. Garrison. Can I tell him it's about the Garrison Holdings account? He'll take the call. 2 minutes later, David Hoffman is on the line. David's been my attorney for 10 years, handling everything from business contracts to estate planning. He's one of 3 people who know the full extent of my assets. Alex, what's the emergency? My wife just filed for divorce. I need you to review the papers I signed. You signed divorce papers without calling me first? I thought they were insurance documents. Can you meet me tonight? I'll be there in an hour. David arrives at my apartment carrying a briefcase and wearing the expression of a man about to deliver bad news. He's 55, gray-haired, and has the kind of calm demeanor that comes from handling rich people's problems for 3 decades. Let me see what you signed, he says, settling into my living room. I hand him the folder Susan left on the coffee table. David spreads the papers out, puts on his reading glasses, and starts going through them page by page. His expression gets darker with each document. Alex, this is bad. How bad? They're claiming assets of approximately $5 million. Based on that, Susan would get $2.5 million in the settlement. That doesn't sound too bad. David looks up. Alex, your actual net worth is over $200 million. If Susan finds out the real numbers and contests this settlement, she gets half of everything. Exactly. But that's not the worst part. I sit down. What's the worst part? Look at this clause. David points to a paragraph buried in the middle of page 12. If you're found to have misrepresented your assets during the divorce proceedings, she gets everything, not half. Everything. I read the clause twice. It's written in dense legal language, but the meaning is clear. If Susan can prove I lied about my wealth, I lose it all. How would she prove that? Bank records, tax returns, business filings. Alex, you've been hiding your assets for years, but you haven't been hiding them from the government. If she subpoenas the right documents, she'll find everything. Everything. David leans back. Alex, who drafted these papers? Victor Lane. He's a partner at Morrison Lane and Associates. I know Victor. He's good. Really good. These documents are airtight. So what are my options? David closes the folder. Legally? Not many. You could claim you signed under duress, but that's hard to prove. You could contest the asset valuation, but that opens the door for full financial discovery. What about the misuse allegations? David's eyebrows go up. What misuse allegations? I tell him about my meeting with Victor, about Susan's documented claims of emotional misuse. David listens without interrupting, his expression getting grimmer. Alex, if she files misuse charges, this becomes a criminal matter. Even if the charges don't stick, the publicity alone could destroy your business relationships. So she's got me either way. It looks that way. David starts packing up his papers. Alex, I have to ask, is there any truth to these misuse claims? None. We've had arguments, but I've never laid a hand on her, never threatened her. Heck, most of the time I barely talk to her. Can you prove that? What do you mean? Witnesses, recordings, anything that shows your actual relationship dynamic. I think about it. Maybe I'll have to check. David stands up. Alex, I'm going to be straight with you. This looks like a very sophisticated setup. Your wife and her boyfriend have been planning this for months, maybe longer. They've covered all the angles. So I should just roll over and let them take everything? I'm not saying that. I'm saying we need to be very careful about how we respond. One wrong move and you lose everything. After David leaves, I sit in my living room staring out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Susan is probably with Victor, celebrating their brilliant plan. They think they've outmaneuvered me. My phone buzzes, a text from Rachel. Got some preliminary info, you're not going to like it. I call her back immediately. Alex, I've got bad news and worse news. Which do you want first? Start with the bad news. Your wife and Victor Lane have been meeting regularly for 4 months, not just at the office. Hotels, restaurants, his apartment. It's a full-blown affair. And the worst news? They're not just sleeping together. They're planning something big. My source at the hotel says they've been meeting with other people. Lawyers, accountants, some guy who looked like a private investigator. They're building a case. More than that, Alex, I think they're planning to disappear after the divorce goes through. Victor's been moving money around, closing accounts, and your wife has been asking questions about countries without extradition treaties. I close my eyes. How long do I have? Based on what I'm seeing, maybe a week before they make their move. Keep digging, Rachel. I need everything you can find. Alex, there's one more thing. That private investigator they met with, I know him, Jimmy Kowalski. He's not just any PI. He specializes in asset recovery for divorce cases. Meaning they already know about your money, Alex. This whole thing about Victor just finding out? That's BS. They've known all along. I hang up and lean back in my chair. Susan and Victor aren't just stealing from me. They're not just framing me. They're playing a game that's 3 moves ahead of anything I imagined. But here's the thing about being underestimated for 8 years. You learn to think several moves ahead yourself. I pull up my laptop and start typing. If Susan and Victor want to play dirty, I'm happy to accommodate them. Time to show them what happens when you corner a man who's been invisible by choice. The charity gala at the Grand Hotel is exactly the kind of event Susan loves. 500 of the city's most influential people, champagne that costs more per bottle than most people make in a day, and enough social networking to fuel her ambition for months. It's also the perfect place to gather intelligence. I'm not on the guest list, but that's never stopped me before. A quick call to the catering company, a fake ID that identifies me as a server, and I'm inside the ballroom carrying a tray of champagne flutes. The beauty of being invisible for 8 years is that people genuinely don't notice you. I've been to dozens of these events with Susan, but dressed in a server's uniform, I might as well be furniture. I spot Susan immediately. She's wearing a red dress that probably cost more than my car, holding court near the silent auction table. Victor is beside her, his hand possessively on her lower back. They look like the perfect power couple. I work my way closer, refilling glasses and picking up fragments of conversation. The Henderson deal should close next week, Victor is saying to a group of lawyers. Then Susan and I are taking a well-deserved vacation. Somewhere exotic, I hope, says a woman I recognize as Judge Patricia Wells. Susan laughs. Very exotic. Somewhere we can really disappear for a while. They're not even trying to be subtle. I move to the next group, where Paul and Miranda are gossiping with some other women. I just feel so bad for Alex, Paula is saying in a voice that suggests she feels nothing of the kind. He has no idea what's coming. Susan's been so patient, Miranda adds. 8 years of that marriage. I don't know how she stood it. Well, she won't have to much longer, says a third woman. Victor's so much better for her, more substantial. I almost laugh. If only they knew. The real intelligence gathering happens when I follow Susan and Victor to a quiet corner near the bar. They think they're having a private conversation, but I'm close enough to hear every word. Jimmy confirmed it, Victor is saying. Alex is worth exactly what we thought. The $200 million is spread across 12 different companies. And he has no idea we know? None. He still thinks we believe he's worth $5 million tops. Susan smiles. This is going to be so much easier than we planned. There's just one problem, Victor says. Jimmy found something else. Alex has been moving money around for the past week. Big transfers. Susan's smile fades. How big? 50 million so far. All to offshore accounts. Can we trace it? Jimmy's working on it. But Alex is smarter than we gave him credit for. The money's bouncing through shell companies in 6 different countries. Susan takes a sip of champagne. It doesn't matter. Once the misuse charges are filed, all his assets get frozen anyway. About that, Victor looks uncomfortable. Are you sure you want to go that route? False accusations are a felony if we get caught. We won't get caught. I have 8 years of documentation. Paula and Miranda will testify about his controlling behavior. It's airtight. What if Alex fights back? Susan laughs. With what? He's been a doormat for 8 years. He signed those divorce papers without even reading them. Alex doesn't have the spine to fight back. That's when I decide I've heard enough. I walk over to their corner, still carrying my tray of champagne. Excuse me, would you care for some champagne? They look right through me. Susan takes a glass without even glancing in my direction. Thank you, Victor says dismissively. I smile and, my pleasure, enjoy your evening. As I walk away, I hear Susan say, God, I hate these events. All these servants hovering around, listening to everything. If only she knew. The next morning, I'm sitting in my office when Susan comes home from her overnight at Miranda's house. She looks satisfied, relaxed, like a woman who's just spent the night celebrating her upcoming victory. Morning, honey, I call out. How was girls' night? Fine, she says, not bothering to come into the office. I'm going to shower. 20 minutes later, she emerges dressed for work. I'll be late again tonight. More work on the Henderson deal. Of course. Hey, Susan? She pauses at the door. What? I've been thinking about our conversation the other night, about me developing a better work ethic. Oh? I've decided you're right. I should be more ambitious, more substantial. For the first time in months, Susan looks directly at me. That's great, Alex. What brought this on? Just realized I've been coasting for too long. Time to step up my game. Susan smiles, but there's something calculating in her eyes. Well, better late than never. After she leaves, I make a phone call. Rachel, it's Alex. I need you to set up a meeting. With who? Paul and Miranda. Tonight, tell them you're a private investigator working on Susan's divorce case. Alex, what are you planning? I'm planning to give them exactly what they want. A chance to help their friend Susan by testifying against her controlling husband. That sounds dangerous. It is, for them. That evening, Rachel calls with an update. They took the bait. Paul and Miranda are meeting me at Cafe Luna at 8 o'clock. They think I'm working for Susan's legal team. Perfect. Record everything. Already planned on it. At 8:30, Rachel calls back. Alex, you need to hear this. She plays me the recording. Paul and Miranda, thinking they're talking to Susan's investigator, lay out the entire plan. The fake misuse allegations. Their willingness to lie under oath. The timeline for the divorce proceedings. But the most interesting part comes at the end, when Paula says, we just want Susan to be happy. She's been planning this for over a year. She deserves to get everything after what Alex put her through. What exactly did Alex put her through? Rachel asks. You know, the emotional misuse. the controlling behavior, making her feel worthless. Can you give me specific examples? There's a long pause on the recording. Well, he was always, controlling. How? Another pause. Susan has all the details. We just know it was bad. But you witnessed some of these incidents? Of course. We were there Susan told us about. The recording captures the exact moment Paula realizes she's never actually witnessed any misuse, that all her knowledge comes from Susan's stories. Miranda tries to save the situation. Look, we know Susan. She wouldn't lie about something like this. Of course not, Rachel agrees. But for the testimony to be effective, we need specific incidents, dates, times, witnesses. Susan has all that, Paula says quickly. Right, but you'll be testifying about what you personally witnessed. Silence. We should probably talk to Susan before we go any further, Miranda finally says. The recording ends. They've got nothing, Rachel says. Without actual witnesses to actual incidents, the misuse allegations fall apart. What about Susan's documentation? Worthless without corroboration? Any decent lawyer will tear it apart in court. I lean back in my chair. Rachel, I need you to do one more thing. What? Tomorrow morning, I want you to serve Susan with a countersuit. For what? Fraud, conspiracy, perjury, and alienation of affection. I want Victor named as a co-defendant. Alex, are you sure about this? Once you file, there's no going back. I'm sure. It's time to stop playing defense. What about your assets? If this goes public, let me worry about that. I hang up and pull out my laptop. Time to make some more phone calls. If Susan wants a war, I'll give her a war. But first, I have a charity event to attend. The Morrison Lane and Associates annual fundraiser is tomorrow night, and I have a feeling it's going to be very educational for everyone involved. The Morrison Lane and Associates fundraiser is held at the Riverside Country Club, the kind of place where membership costs more than most people's houses and the wait list is longer than a Supreme Court appointment process. Susan's been trying to get us invited to this event for 3 years. Tonight, I don't need an invitation. I arrive at 7 o'clock, dressed in my best suit and carrying a briefcase that contains 8 years' worth of carefully documented evidence. The valet takes my car keys without a second glance. Money talks, even when you're crashing the party. The ballroom is packed with lawyers, judges, city council members, and business leaders. Everyone who matters in the city's legal and political circles is here. It's the perfect audience for what I have planned. I spot Susan immediately. She's standing near the bar with Victor, both of them looking relaxed and confident. They think they've already won. Alex, I turn to find Judge Patricia Wells staring at me in surprise. Patricia, good to see you. I didn't know you were coming tonight. Susan didn't mention. It was a last-minute decision. I hope you don't mind the intrusion. Of course not. You're always welcome. Judge Wells moves on, but I notice her glancing back at me with a puzzled expression. Word will spread quickly that I'm here. I work the room methodically, greeting people I've met at previous events, introducing myself to others. Most of them know me as Susan's husband, the quiet IT guy who pays for her lifestyle but doesn't contribute much to the conversation. Tonight, that changes. Alex Garrison, a booming voice behind me. I turn to find Robert Morrison, the senior partner of Susan's firm. What brings you out tonight? Business, actually. I wanted to talk to you about something. Morrison's eyebrows go up. Oh, what kind of business? The kind that might interest a law firm looking to expand into corporate cybersecurity. I hand him my business card. Not the simple one that says IT consultant, but the real one. The one with the Garrison Tech Solutions logo and the list of Fortune 500 clients. Morrison studies the card, his expression changing. I had no idea you were in this line of work. Most people don't. I prefer to keep a low profile. $47 million in annual revenue, Morrison reads from the card. That's substantial. It's been a good year. Morrison looks across the room at Susan and Victor, then back at me. Alex, perhaps we should talk privately. Actually, I was hoping to address the entire partnership if you have a few minutes. Morrison checks his watch. We're scheduled to make some announcements in about 20 minutes. Would that work? Perfect. As Morrison walks away, I see him pull out his phone. Within minutes, several of the firm's partners are glancing in my direction with new interest. I continue working the room, dropping strategic hints about my business, my client list, my net worth. By the time Morrison calls for attention, half the room knows that Susan's adequate husband is actually worth more than most of them combined. Ladies and gentlemen, Morrison's voice carries across the ballroom. Before we begin tonight's program, we have a special guest who'd like to say a few words. Alex Garrison. I walk to the small stage at the front of the room. Susan is staring at me with a mixture of confusion and growing alarm. Victor looks like he's seen a ghost. Thank you, Robert. I adjust the microphone and look out at the crowd. Most of you know me as Susan's husband, the quiet guy who sits in the corner at these events and doesn't say much. A few polite chuckles. Tonight, I wanted to share something with you. A story about trust, betrayal, and the importance of reading the fine print. The room goes quiet. Susan has gone pale. 8 years ago, I married a brilliant, ambitious woman. Someone I thought I could trust with my life, my heart, and my financial future. I pause, letting the tension build. Last week, that woman asked me to sign some insurance papers. Being a trusting husband, I signed them without reading them carefully. Victor is frantically trying to get Susan's attention, but she's frozen, staring at me. It turns out those weren't insurance papers. They were divorce papers. My wife has been planning to leave me for months with the help of her lover, Victor Lane. Gasps from the audience. Victor starts moving toward the exit, but 2 security guards hired by me block his path. Now, normally this would be a private matter, but Susan and Victor made it public when they decided to accuse me of spousal misuse to strengthen their case. I pull out a tablet and tap the screen. The room's audio system comes to life with Rachel's recording of Paul and Miranda. We just want Susan to be happy. She's been planning this for over a year. Can you give me specific examples of the misuse? Well, he was always, controlling. The recording plays for 3 minutes, capturing every incriminating admission, every contradiction, every moment where Susan's friends reveal they've never actually witnessed any misuse. When it ends, the room is silent. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the witnesses who are going to testify about my alleged controlling behavior. As you can hear, they've never witnessed any such behavior because it never happened. Susan finally finds her voice. Alex, stop this. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? I tap the tablet again. This time the screen displays financial documents. Let me share something else with you. Susan and Victor thought they were divorcing a man worth $5 million. They were planning to take half and disappear to a country without extradition treaties. The screen shows my actual net worth, $247 million. The truth is, I've been building a business empire for 15 years. Garrison Tech Solutions, Garrison Holdings, and 10 other companies that provide cybersecurity services to some very important clients. I click to the next slide, showing a client list that includes 3 government agencies and 12 Fortune 500 companies. Susan, you wanted half of everything in the divorce. Congratulations. Your half comes to approximately $123 million. Susan's mouth falls open. Victor looks like he's about to faint. But here's the interesting part. I click to the next slide. That prenuptial agreement you had me sign, the one with the clause about misrepresenting assets, it works both ways. The slide shows the relevant legal text, highlighted in red. If either party is found to have engaged in fraud or deception during the marriage, they forfeit all claims to marital assets. I look directly at Susan. Adultery counts as deception, Susan. So does conspiracy to commit perjury. Victor finally speaks up. You can't prove any of this. Actually, I can. I tap the tablet one more time. The screen fills with photographs. Susan and Victor entering hotels, leaving his apartment, kissing in restaurant parking lots. I have 8 months of surveillance footage, hotel receipts, credit card records, and recorded conversations, including one from last night where you discussed your plans to flee the country after the divorce was finalized. The room erupts in whispers and gasps. Judge Wells is shaking her head in disgust. Robert Morrison looks like he wants to crawl under a table. Susan pushes through the crowd toward the stage. Alex, we can work this out. Actually, we can't. I hold up a legal document. As of this morning, you've been served with a countersuit for fraud, conspiracy, adultery, and attempted theft. Victor's been served as a co-defendant. Security guards move in on both sides, not to arrest them. I'm not pressing criminal charges, but to escort them out. Ladies and gentlemen, I say into the microphone as Susan and Victor are led away, I want to thank you for your attention tonight. And I want to leave you with this thought. In any relationship, business or personal, trust is everything. Once it's broken, the consequences can be substantial. The room explodes in applause as I step down from the stage. Robert Morrison intercepts me at the bottom of the steps. Alex, I had no idea about any of this. I know, Robert. Victor acted alone. What happens now? Now, Susan gets nothing from the divorce except her legal bills. Victor loses his partnership, his reputation, and probably his law license. And I go back to being invisible. With $247 million, you'll never be invisible again. I smile. Watch me. As I walk out of the country club, my phone buzzes with a text from Rachel. Hotel security confirms Susan and Victor just checked out of the Marriott. Looks like they're running. I text back, let them go. They've got nowhere to run to and no money to run with. Outside, the valet brings my car around. It's not the BMW or Mercedes you'd expect from a multimillionaire. It's a 5-year-old Honda Civic. Nice car, sir, the valet says with just a hint of sarcasm. Thanks, I reply, tipping him $50. I like being underestimated. As I drive home through the city streets, I think about the last 8 years. 8 years of being invisible, being adequate, being dismissed and underestimated. Tonight, Susan and Victor learned what happens when you mistake invisibility for weakness. Tomorrow, I go back to being nobody special, just a quiet IT consultant with a modest lifestyle and a very private business empire. Some people are born to be in the spotlight. Others are born to control it from the shadows. I know which one I am.